98, 99, the stock market was just going nuts. And every company that had a .com was going public and just blowing up and blowing up in a good way. Oh, and then it blew up in a bad way as well. But that's okay, because net, the amount of value creation is undeniable. There was a bubble. Sure, there was a bubble, and the stock market, contracted, but net was huge, and the value was created is huge. That's going to be the same thing for AI. It's going to be huge value creation. We don't have the stock market reacting in the same way right now. Okay, one day it will. We know the stock market will catch up.
Hi, everybody. I am super excited to start on time. Well, kind of on time, close to on time. No tech hiccups, nothing like that. I love the emojis. Keep them going. My name is Adeo. I'll be the host today. I'm CEO of the Desol Group, which is parent company of VC Lab, Desol Hub, and LP Institute. A lot of exciting things. I'm also chairman of the Founder Institute. And what we do with Venture Trailblazers is we bring together amazing people like Warren, who I'll introduce more formally in a second, so that entrepreneurs and investors can learn about the newest and hottest things happening in venture capital worldwide. And Warren actually brings to us today kind of two of the hottest things in one. So we get a 2-for-1 special. And that he comes from the side of a venture studio, which they're on fire. I saw a report this morning on LinkedIn that they're saying like 880 venture studios worldwide, and their average IRR is 60%, which is like what amazing compared to venture capital and other asset classes. And he also brings AI because he's doing a venture studio for AI. So we're going to talk about venture studios, super hot, and AI, which, I would argue is even hotter. So we got lots of exciting things for you today. Couple rules of order. There's a chat on the side. Introduce yourself, put your LinkedIn, talk about what we're discussing, anything you want, put in there. But don't discuss your thesis or specifically fundraising, because there's some general solicitation rules that we want to be sensitive about, but you can talk all about yourself, your interests, your LinkedIn, everything. You'll also notice in the sort of middle right-hand side of the screen, there's a little Q&A button. If you click that Q&A button, you'll be able to ask Warren and I questions, and we're going to try our best to get to everyone's questions. Now, in my experience, you're going to wait to the very end to ask questions, and we're going to run out of time. So if you want a question, get it into the Q&A. We're not going to be monitoring the chat for questions, okay? So we're going to be monitoring the Q&A for questions. I'll bring this up again a little later in the webinar. All right. I think everybody knows about the Desol Group. It's the leading platform to help emerging managers launch top performing venture capital funds. And hopefully you also know about the Founder Institute, which is the leading program for aspiring entrepreneurs to take an idea and turn it into a business worldwide. It operates in hundreds of cities around the world. So hopefully you know those two things, but you may not know too much about Warren. So let me just say a couple words, and then I'll turn it over to you, Warren, to do your own introduction. So before we do, let's test these emojis out. If you think either the Desol Group, VC Lab, or Founder Institute is awesome, let's get some thumbs ups and hearts. All right, thumbs ups and hearts we're seeing, so you know your emojis. When Warren says something intelligent or inspiring, emoji, 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 right? Because
that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. No, that's how we know you're amazing, right? When
Awesome.
You get the emojis. So Warren comes to us. He's not only a seasoned entrepreneur, but he's also been a venture capitalist with 30 successful exits. Warren's been instrumental in the growth of iconic companies like Tesla, SpaceX, Skype, Baidu during his 13 years at DFJ. And now he's at this really cool thing called AI fund. It's actually a venture studio. I asked him, like, why is it called fund when you're a venture studio? Gave a great answer. So rather than me tell more about your background, why don't you fill in on your background, Warren? Welcome here to Venture Trailblazers.
All right. Great to be here, Adele. Thanks for hosting me. Thanks for bringing in such an awesome audience. I've been looking at the chat over here, and we've got folks from all over the world. This is fantastic. So yeah, I guess I'll start off saying a few words about my background, and then we can like jump into things. So going way back, I'm an engineer by background. I studied engineering at Stanford. I went through my master's degree and studied an area at the time called smart product design, and it may still be called smart product design, which is basically the intersection of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science. So we were doing embedded systems design, work with embedded microprocessors and embedded code, and basically creating gadgets. Robotics is kind of the pinnacle of smart product design. I spent 4 years designing medical devices, which is also smart product design, and specifically in the area of advanced kidney dialysis. So I thought that was pretty cool, doing good for the world. And then I went to business school, and that was the end of doing good for the world. Uh, Tongue in cheek, of course. Obviously, the VC brings tremendous benefit to the whole entrepreneurial community and funneling capital in and providing support. As you mentioned, I was at DFJ, Draper Fisher Jurvetson, for 13 years. I joined in 1997 when it was Draper Fisher Associates. Steve Jurvetson had yet to get his name on the masthead, but soon he did. And what a great run that was from 97 until 2010. The birth of the World Wide Web. I was about to say the birth of the internet, but the internet, of course, had been around for quite a way time longer than that. But we invested in a whole bunch of internet companies, a bunch of hard tech companies. You had mentioned Tesla and SpaceX being among them. We invested in semiconductor capital equipment, nanotech, climate tech. But really, we made our name on a bunch of seminal internet companies like Hotmail and Skype, Baidu in China, Box, and then our hard tech companies, backing not only Elon and his companies, but his cousins. We were in a company founded by his cousins called Everdream, and then Solar City, and then Tesla and SpaceX. And it definitely a great ride. I accidentally started my own business in 2010, and then suddenly found myself really going, diving headfirst all the way into entrepreneurship. And that was a company that I called Thews Sports. Basically, we created a platform for leveraging AI to create automated highlight reels for sports fans that were completely personalized based on their favorite sports, favorite teams, favorite players. So we could create millions of videos, all personalized, all in seconds. And that platform got launched. We were the let's see, it was called the FIFA World Cup highlight machine for the 2018 World Cup. Fox Sports had us on all their platforms. We were distributed through IBM and their Watson Video service. And we had customers all over the world. And it was great fun working in the sports industry and presenting a real novel platform, video platform there. Sold the company, put up my shingle and started advising companies. And the next thing you know, I was pulled into this thing called the AI Fund. And we'll talk more about that. But as you have already mentioned, it's a venture studio, and we create companies. And more specifically, we are a minor co-founder in all the companies that we create. And we do this broadly across many different industries. We view ourselves as experts in AI and company formation. And then we work with amazing founders and corporations And just anybody who has got great ideas and wants to see something come to life, wants a co-founder to help them do it. I'll pause there. A lot
Yeah,
to
no, that's a wow, great intro, by the way. All right, so let's so you've been on both sides of the table, easily, maybe three sides of the table, if you will. So tell us a little bit about the studio and your partner Andrew, and you know why it's
yeah.
called the AI Fund, and anything you want to add on the backstory there would be great.
Yeah, I mean, like you're right. How can we be so audacious as to call ourselves AI Fund? It's certainly in vogue, and AI is touching every part of our lives these days. But so the senior managing partner at AI Fund, the guy who started it, is Andrew Ng, and Andrew is well known throughout the world as being the face of education in AI, deep learning, machine learning. He's been around the industry for decades. And so this isn't not like a fly by night operation where Chat GPT came out and we said, oh, what's this? And decided to call ourselves AI Fund. Uh, Andrew he was the founder of Google Brain. He was the head of AI for Baidu. He was an adjunct professor at Stanford teaching the deep learning classes there. And then probably most appropriately, so to speak, he founded Coursera and the online education platform. And through Coursera, he has taught now over 8 million software engineers machine learning, deep learning, and now generative AI and leveraging the new platforms that are out. And it's amazing. I mean, literally 1 out of every 1,000 people on the planet have learned something about AI from Andrew. So he gets around. And he's also started a bunch of other things. But basically, the fund is all about backing Andrew and his creativity, his entrepreneurship. And the fund was started way back at the end of 2017, when a number of venture capital funds, institutional investors, individuals, corporations put in money to back Andrew, to give him some money and just go, see what you can do. And we've transitioned a few times in terms of the strategy because we were trying to figure out, what should we do over that time. And we've settled firmly in this area of being a venture studio where we can get the leverage of great entrepreneurs from around the globe, but at the same time, be a co-founder and really roll up our sleeves and help the companies get going in material ways.
Right. So that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit. So you did start originally as a fund, right? And then maybe you could tell us what made you decide to do more of the venture studio model and less of the fund model, because I think that's instructive. And then I have tons of questions. So
yeah, it all has to do with leverage. So in fact, we didn't even start, and I say we, I was not there at the beginning. I need to be very, very clear. So it's the royal we. Andrew and my partner Eva were there from the very beginning. And the initial idea was give Andrew a pool of money from which he will start a few companies. And I'll just make up a number. He's going to start 6 companies over 6 years. And it was a $175 million fund. And we had some core LPs like Sequoia and NEA. So we said real nice brand name VCs behind Andrew. And Andrew did exactly that. He started a couple companies. He started 2 companies, in fact. One called Landing AI, which is focused on computer vision. One called Wobot Health, focused on mental health, leveraging AI for better mental health. And he started building those companies. And these were companies he was all in on. He spent tons of time on. And over the course of let's say a year and a half or 2 years, that's all he did was these 2 companies, because the idea was Andrew would start companies. But he quickly realized that's not leveraging him to a greater degree. He always thinks how can I have more influence? How can I do even more than that? And certainly he could have a huge impact with 2 companies. But yet he wanted to do more. So he pivoted over to being more of a traditional venture capital fund. Okay, I'm going to welcome entrepreneurs and their companies into AI fund. I'm going to take a look. I'll invest in those I like a lot, et cetera, et cetera. He ended up investing in 9 companies as a traditional venture capitalist. He was not a founder of those companies. He was a venture capitalist. But he then had further thoughts and said, wait, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to create companies. I want to be there at formation. And as interesting as venture capital is, because I get to meet so many different founders and what they're doing, I want to be a co-founder. And that's where that third, or well, I guess second pivot was. The first pivot to venture capital, the second pivot to a venture studio. And so that's where we are today. And so since around 2021, so for the last 3 years, we've been firmly in this world of venture studio where we are a minor co-founder. We attract ideas. Please bring us your ideas. We attract entrepreneurs. Come to us with your idea and let's co-found a business. Let's build something fantastic together. And in our fund, rather than just having a couple of investment professionals and some associates and back office, we have a whole team of folks that can help build companies. We have business builders, we have technology builders, we have recruiters, we have legal, we have all the elements of building a business. And we do this in conjunction with entrepreneurs and corporations who want to create some really great companies.
So how many people are in the organization right now?
We have about 20 individuals in the organization. And to break that down, so on my team, I have 4 full-time, actually, I now have 5. We're just bringing another person on board. 5 full-time business builders on the team. We have 2 full-time PhDs in AI, deep learning, 2 guys who've been around the AI world again for many, many years. And then 2 flex engineers. We have another portfolio company called Factored that provides engineering resources to Fortune 2000 companies. And we pull from them when we need extra engineering resources. We've got 5 recruiters on our team, which consists of 3 executive recruiters and 2 individual contributor recruiters. We have 2 on our legal team who do an amazing job with like incorporation and contracts and all the stuff. Yeah, the legal stuff that is so important, but you want to focus on your product and not quite so much on legal. And then we've got a great back office, to help us with the the LP relations and the finances and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it all adds up to about 20 folks in the organization. So it's a pretty small organization, but all working to help out entrepreneurs to build big businesses.
And I hear you're launching 1 company a month. Is that, and maybe you could tell us, like, that's a lot. I mean, all right. If people think that's a lot, let's see some emojis. So, and this isn't like 1 idea a month, and maybe, right, this is 1 company a month. And maybe you could tell us, like, when you're launching 1 company a month, what does that actually mean? And how far are these companies along? Because they're not just ideas, right?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, we're just about to fund our 43rd company. And because some of those companies were part of the original 11, let's say, that weren't part of this new strategy, we basically, once we get to 43, then it will be 32 companies that we have co-founded over the last 3 years. And so I guess
plus the original 2 and 9, right?
And plus the 2 plus the 9, exactly. So yeah, let me go through the pipeline here, and I'll go 2 ways. I'm going to go top down in the funnel, and then I'm going to go bottom up and talk about, so you can kind of feel how many ideas come in the door or we need in order to get to where we need to go. So starting at the top of the funnel, ideas come in, then we validate those ideas and say, hey, are these venture scale opportunities? Then we go immediately to recruiting, and we recruit a founder in residence. And some of these ideas come in with the founders in residence, so we don't even have to recruit them. But let's say they don't. We recruit a founder in residence, and we recruit a venture advisor. And I'm going to pause for a moment and talk about the venture advisor. That's cool, a subject matter expert in the domain that startup is focusing on, who is board member level, board member quality, and who ultimately becomes our board member for that venture. And this is really key, because if we're going to start one company a month, I can't be sitting on 12 boards. Andrew can't be sitting on 12 boards. Like that, we don't sit on boards. By bringing in a subject matter expert, executive, somebody who's built a business before from the ground up, somebody who has industry knowledge, we actually bring an outsider with real operating experience on the board of directors, not an investor. Now, there's going to be some investors on the board ultimately, because this is going to be kind of a typical company that VCs come in and finance and all that. But by bringing in a venture advisor, somebody from industry, you've got a real, somebody right next to the founding CEO, someone who can whisper in their ear, who can provide guidance, who can do, where the rubber hits the road. I've been there before. Let me, show you your blind spots, et cetera. In any event, we bring on board that venture advisor right away. And then with the founder in residence and the venture advisor, we bring on from our team the business builder and the technology builder, and we go into a 12-week build process. And we split up that 12-week build process into 6 2-week sprints. And at the end of every 2-week sprint, there's a demo day, and you have a half-hour presentation to our entire fund. Or if we're co-building with a corporate partner, not only to our fund, but to also the corporate partner. But every 2 weeks, everybody knows what's going on. They get an update, they can ask questions, they can be provocative, they can be complimentary, but you get that feedback every 2 weeks. And then finally, at the end of 12 weeks, you give your final pitch, and you have a full venture deck. You have a prototype of your AI model. That core AI engine has been trained already by our team of technologists, and you present that, and that's where we make the funding decision. And as an investor, our typical check is to write $1 million check in as a pre-seed round, but we also co-invest with our corporate partners. We co-invest with other angels and venture funds. It's all about the village. It takes a village to start a company. But we love that community. And so in any event, it's going ideas, validation, hiring, building, funding. And in order to fund 12 companies a year, we have to build probably 16 to 18 companies a year, because they don't all make it through. But let's say 16 companies a year. We have to hire pretty much for 16 companies. We're actually pretty successful hiring. We've got my partner, Linda, does an amazing job on the recruiting front. But we have to validate on the order of 40 companies in order to get to that 16. And then we probably have to bring in 150 to 200 ideas in order to get to 40 ideas to validate, in order to get to 16 companies to build, in order to get to 12 companies to fund. So there you go. That's our whole pipeline.
So you're looking at less than 10% make it to the 12 from the idea.
That's exactly right.
Maybe a little less. Okay, so I got lots of questions. So wow, first of all, wow, right? Thank you. I think it was one of the best articulations of a venture studio model in a few minutes I've ever heard. So let's begin there. So the demo day was every 2 weeks, you said, and what's at the 6-week mark?
Yeah, so it's every 2 weeks is a demo, and then at the 6th sprint or the 12-week mark. So every 2 weeks is a 30-minute presentation by the company, by the founder in residence. After 6 sprints or 12 weeks, that's the final presentation. That's when you've got your venture deck, you've got your prototype, you have all sorts of data that we've collected from subject matter experts and prospective customers. You may even have your first customer. In fact, by co-building with corporations, which we've been doing a lot of recently, not only do we get great ideas, but we get a customer from day one.
It's an amazing. Do they come to the 2-week sprints?
Absolutely. They get involved. They provide the data.
So, okay, that's awesome. All right, I misunderstood the six weeks. It was 6 sprints, which is 12 weeks. Okay, I got that. My other question is, talk to us. I mean, the 150 to 200 ideas. you brought up corporate partners. You told me also you'll take ideas kind of from anyone, and I'd love to hear, like, how does that work? Is there a submission, or do you have outbound? How does your idea machine operate?
Yeah. So, yeah, venture capital funds attract companies. We try to attract ideas. So it's the absolutely the right question that you're asking. So, um, I'll start with the corporations. So we have a number of corporate partners. Let me just give you an example. So AES is an an energy company. They do renewable energy across the United States, across the country, across the world. I don't want to limit them. They're a global operation. Um, they have wind farms, they have solar farms, they have grid scale battery storage. They approached us and said, look, we're all into AI, but yet we don't know what we don't know. Can we work with you? And they seek out Andrew because Andrew is all about AI education and entrepreneurship. So here's a major public company, AES, that comes to us and says, let's build together. And we're saying, let's build together. So it's a perfect synergy. They brainstorm inside their organization. They pull ideas from their diverse employee base. They find like 120 ideas through internal brainstorming. They whittle it down to 12 ideas, and they approach us with 12 ideas, and we just start validating. We took the first 2 ideas, we validated them. Actually, we validated one, we invalidated another, and then we started building one of those ventures after we hired a founder in residence and a venture advisor, and we're actually in it. So that's one route to bring in ideas, corporations. We also have our venture capital friends who are like, boy, I've been looking for such and such a solution for this problem for a year and a half now. I've not found it. Let's just build it. So we'll build a business with a venture capital fund. We also have entrepreneurs that find us through our website, aifund.ai, and they submit through our website. And so every single week we get, I'll make up a number here, 50, 60 ideas that come in through the website. And me and the other builders, we go through these ideas every single week. And we'll approach those founders who, we're like, this sounds really interesting. Let's learn more. Let's have a conversation. And again, the idea doesn't have to come with a CEO. It doesn't have to come with a founder in residence. In fact, you can just send us ideas. We'll take free ideas, but most of the time the ideas are coming from somebody from an industry who has that experience and wants to be involved, and that's the perfect combination.
What about your own idea? So let's say, how do your ideas fit within it? So I'm guessing you have this pot of ideas, like a pot of gold, if you will, and you're sorting through them, but you have your own ideas. And do they go through the same process, or is there a little internal favoritism?
Actually, to be very candid, it's the opposite. Yes, we do have our own ideas. And Andrew's great. He always said, are you really the subject matter expert in that area? And of course, we're kind of like, no, but it's a great idea, isn't it? And but because we're always looking for the subject matter expert. Like, again, just going, I'll use AES a few times in this conversation, but there's subject matter experts in energy and renewables and climate. And like, when they come to us with an idea, it's the background of that idea. They know what they're talking about. We have ideas. We think we're smart, but we're not the subject matter experts. So we have to go out and find an external subject matter expert if it's our own idea. We have to find somebody who actually knows what they're saying, who will validate for us even before we get into validation. So we make it harder on ourselves because it's the right thing. We can eat our own dog food, but will the other dogs come and chomping? That's what we have to figure out.
Totally understood. All right. So I want, like, this is all great. We've been talking about the rainbow and the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But as you mentioned, not everything gets to the pot of the gold. Some things fail. So I'd love to hear, like, and this is one of the hardest things to do because you have to kill your own idea, right? Or,
Yes.
in some cases, it's much further than an idea. And maybe you could talk to us about, like, you mentioned roughly 16 to 12, but then there's 150 to 40. But so what's the killing process like, or the stopping process like, and how do you make good decisions there?
Yeah, it really has a lot to do with talking to others and the wisdom of the crowd. I think that's probably the best way to phrase it. So when we have 200 ideas that come in over the course of a year, we'll immediately go and try to find those subject matter experts. And the subject matter experts will quickly like invalidate an idea before it's even reached our validation stage. They'll just say, look, there's a lot of competition already, or that can't be done very specifically for these reasons. On the other hand, like sometimes they say it can't be done and they don't give really good reasons. And they're like, ooh, this is probably a really good idea because the industry doesn't think it can be done. Let's see if we can dig in further. But in any event, we can get from 200 ideas down to 40 pretty quickly there. Then when we're validating, that's when we're going to talk to, let's say, half a dozen subject matter experts, half a dozen profile customers. And we really try to ask, is there an urgency to buy? How much would you pay for this? How many customers out there? This is the back of the envelope stuff, right? You know, like there are 100,000 customers and they're each willing to pay $2 each. Okay, well, that's not venture scale. Oh, they're willing to pay $2 million each. Great. Okay, now we've got something. So then,
roughly, just to double click on that, so it's really like half a dozen and half a dozen, or you rate, or is it like, do you have a minimum? If you don't speak with at least 3 or 4, it doesn't. What's your sort of gating item there?
Yeah, you know, it's like, for instance, back to AES. If AES brings us an opportunity, we don't have to talk to as many subject matter experts as if, you know, Jennifer brings in an idea that sounds really interesting. And so it's just, but in general, yeah, I mean, I think half a dozen is about right. You know, it's enough. We want to move fast. You know, I always think about, you know, a great entrepreneur, Mike Cassidy, who is always talking about speed, move fast, just get
I
going.
love Mike.
Yeah. You know, like validate fast, kill fast, whatever, just move fast. So yeah, half a dozen. And then if it passes validation, we're going to go into hiring. We have to have a concrete idea that we can sell to a founder in residence and a venture advisor. We have to be able to convince them to come on board. And I mean, you're talking about founder in residence. We're trying to hire a founding CEO, which is a real unnatural act. In fact, that really is the most difficult thing we do, because normally the founder is already bought in. They come to you as a venture capitalist and say, hey, I want to be funded. Here we hire a founding CEO. And I just, again, tip of the hat to Linda, my partner, who runs recruiting, runs talent. The profile that she pursues to find these founding CEOs is great. It actually does work. We have, but you know, and again, does it work 100% of the time? No, nothing we do works 100% of the time.
So that's the failure point, right? If you can't find a founding team. So can we double click on that for a second? Because I know there are probably a ton of people listening right now that might be candidates to be a founding, what do you call it?
Founder in residence. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So the profile, so we always look for somebody who has founded something before. Now, it doesn't have to be a success, but you have to have gone through the entrepreneurial journey. You have to have suffered like we all have suffered. And the challenges.
Suffering.
Oh, it's awesome. It's always awesome. No, but I mean, it's a roller coaster, right? I mean, there are days that are the best days ever. And there are days that are, you're alone and it's the worst day ever. And like when I was running through sports, I wanted a grade every day, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, like, oh, this was a 0. Like, I should just stop. And then the next day is like a 10. You're like, give me more of this. But that journey is so important. So that's one of the characteristics and qualities. You've been through the process. Second, we are looking for subject matter experts. So if we're starting a company in the energy sector, you've done things in the energy sector. If it's going to be in marketing automation, you've done marketing. If it's in finance, you've done finance. So we're looking for that expertise. And then, of course, we're looking for somebody who can sell. right? You're articulate, you can do a sales pitch, you're passionate, people will follow you, you're smart, and these are entrepreneurs who exist all over the world. This is a profile of so many of us, and those are the people we love, and those are the people we bring on board as the founder in residence. So, and then we complement that person with that venture advisor, who is going to be somebody who's board level, like I said, somebody who probably serves on boards of directors, who's raised money before from the venture community, perhaps has had a successful exit before. Like one of the founders of SoFi is one of our venture advisors. The founder and former CEO of Pandora, Tim Westergan, is one of our venture advisors. The founder of Marketo, the marketing automation software. We've got just really just rock solid venture advisors who just really help and complement our companies, all in the different markets that they have that expertise in.
So, is it possible you get like one, like the founder in residence, but you don't get the other, and that's a break point? Or if you get one, you're like, that's good enough, we're gonna power through. Or love to just curious, because one of the hardest things in the venture studio, as you said, is like these breakpoints, and how strict or how gray area are you when making those cut or go decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can't start without the founder in residence,
So
period.
that's a critical. Okay.
That's a
What
critical
about
point.
the board level?
Yeah, I mean, and in fact, so every now and then we hire the board level individual prior to hiring the founder in residence. And then we work with them to hire the founder in residence. They have a say, they can interview. Perfect, great. But we can't start the build process, that 12-week build process, without the founder in residence. That's the core. And so that is a break point. And then also, as you mentioned, and I'll reiterate, at the end of the 12-week period, or every now and then before the end of the 12-week period, but the end of the 12-week period, that is definitely a break point. And every now and then we realize that founder in residence is not the right person. And in fact, we've had at least once a founder in residence raise their hand and say, I just went through the 12 weeks with you. I can see what the future portends. I don't want to put in that type of effort. And, it's great to find out then, as opposed to after putting in a lot of money. And
Better than later, right?
Yeah,
So I guess
exactly.
we have founder and residence failures. What are some of the other failures you see at that 12-week point that cause you to say, okay, so obviously if the founder in residence gives up, do you sometimes try to replace that founder in residence
Yes,
if it's a good idea? Okay.
absolutely. But we start the build process over. Now they have
Ooh,
all the initial build materials, of course, to leverage. So maybe it's not 12 weeks, maybe it's only 6 weeks then. But new founder in residence means, of course, new CEO means new ideas. And we don't want
new
to
build
just hand a
process, right?
business plan to a CEO and say, do that. We want to make sure that CEO is completely bought in. And so, we give her every chance that she needs to build a business in her image, if you will.
Oh, I love the fact that you use a female reference here, because there are way too many male references in entrepreneurship. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know. Are you comfortable sharing what your gender balance is among the founders in residence?
Yeah, it's a great question. To be candid, it's never as balanced as we would like, if you will. But we
Yeah,
have,
that's the reality of the world today,
I, I,
unfortunately.
I would say that we probably have 20% of our CEOs are female.
That's great.
Um,
Well, it's a heavily tech industry, so it's a great start.
yeah, and
And I know
also
you
what?
guys care. I know you care, Warren. So it's good that we're talking about this. Of course, it's two guys, but it's important that we have. I just sent my daughter to college this week, so she's going to an all-girls college. So I want to
There you
just see
go.
women have the best chances. But let's go back to Breakpoint. Sorry, I tangented
No,
on some.
actually to dwell on that just for a moment longer. Gender diversity, racial diversity is all about idea diversity and creativity. And creativity is at the hub of what we're doing. And one thing I'll point out at AI Fund, there's 4 partners, 2 male, 2 female, and our organization is majority female in our organization. It's great. Anyway,
That's
but
great, by the way.
it
It
is
starts
all
at the
about
top.
creativity.
Right. Awesome. All right. So back to breakpoints. And I know I want to get to questions in the next few minutes, but I think breakpoints are super important. Are there any other, like, let's do some breakpoints super quick. I want to talk about AI for a second as well, and then we'll jump into questions. But any other, like, quick, super common breakpoints that happen at that 6-sprint 12-week mark?
Yeah, so probably the other most prevalent issue that comes up is it has to do with competition. Is that even though we did a validation, even though we thought we scoured the market, we realized there are actually firmly entrenched competitors going after exactly the problem we're trying to solve. And it's just it just became daunting, if you will. It doesn't happen that often again, but every now and then, I'll just say like once a year, we go through a build and we just realize the competitive landscape is too big and it's just not the right venture to, put our money behind. And that could be the reason that we actually do just ball up, the presentation, not that it's in paper, but we ball it up and we throw it out in the garbage can.
What are any other big ones?
That's primarily it. I mean, it could be that the technology is inaccessible. So we thought we could build a model that, as I mentioned, we actually build, train, deploy the model that we're using. Maybe we can't get the data to train the model. Maybe, so the thesis is broken. It's just not ready yet. There's some other problem that comes up. So yeah, so that's certainly one of them. Really any element within the whole entrepreneurial landscape could be a reason for gating a company and preventing us from moving forward. But just to be clear, when we put that pre-seed check in, the next gate is going to be the seed financing. And for the seed financing, that's where the company is going out to external venture capital firms, pitching the idea and looking to get that lead investor who is indifferent, if you will, at least
It's
at the
not
beginning.
you. Right.
Yeah, besides us.
We
Exactly.
have a ton of investors here that could actually fit that, whatever possible people you bring deals to. And I'm going to,
Absolutely.
at the very end, there's some opportunities for founders on the call. There's opportunities for investors on the call, and we'll cover that at the very end, maybe as a carrot, so everyone hangs in.
Yep.
We'll get to your questions next, but last thing before we get to is this amazing, guys, so far? Thumbs up if you think it's amazing. And what I want to do as a final thought before we get to the questions, lots of great questions, so we'll go kind of fast through the questions, is what are your thoughts? I mean, I know this is open-ended, but what's your thoughts on the future of AI? I mean, clearly you're excited about it, but you're in it, so you may be able to give us some deeper knowledge than we get by just reading TechCrunch or whatever.
Yeah, one of the great benefits of working with Andrew at AI Fund is that there's a sister organization called Deep Learning. And Deep Learning is the educational arm of Andrew Ng. They every week they're coming out with, there's a newsletter called The Batch. I think there's like a daily little snippets on AI, but most importantly, they come out with new classes. And
Wow.
and Andrew is putting out classes with other corporations that are part of the AI ecosystem. He's coming out with classes that farm fundamental underpinnings of AI learning and knowledge. Like there's a new class that just came out for like Python for AI. If you want to, you don't know Python, well, great. Here, learn Python for AI, and within that context, learn generative AI. There's a class called Generative AI for Everyone, which is for business individual or anybody. I mean, literally for everyone and anyone. And so being there, we have access to all of these, like the 2 PhDs who are on my team, Carlos and Hernan, the deep learning staff. They're always looking at what is the latest in research, what's the latest in the commercial world, and then this benefit can accrue to our companies where we know what the latest models are. We know all the trade-offs. Okay, this is a proprietary model. This is an open model. This is a 3 billion parameter model. This is a 72 billion parameter model. This one's good for language. This one's good for images. This one's good for math. It's knowing those subtleties. And then because we've trained models, so, I guess in a way we could say we have trained 43 minus 9 models, 34. I need my large math model to do that math. We've trained at least 30. Actually, we've trained more than 34 because every build has a model and not every build gets an investment. So anyway, whatever. We've trained a lot of models. We can do it fast. We can do it efficiently. We know which models work. And because AI is moving so fast, the advice we give our companies is you have to build your AI model to be extracted and replaced in real time, hot swappable. You have to, because it is moving so fast. And we know, today, what are the themes? The themes are agentic AI, multimodal, edge AI, all these, there's real, but those are not going to be the themes of 12 months from now. It's going to be completely different. I mean, of course, it'll incorporate, images and video and audio and text and et cetera, but it's going to be something even more extraordinary. And that's the fun of being in the heart of this all.
And as we discussed yesterday, I mean, it could be, as large or larger than the internet was as an impact on society.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I lived through the internet revolution. I mean, it was amazing back in, 95, 96, 97, and what happened and what kind of revolution. And I will have to say, like, this revolution's taking a different pathway, but ultimately
it feels the same though, right? Sorry to interrupt. It feels the same today as it did in, let's say, the 90s.
There are elements that are absolutely, this is deja vu all over again. But at the same time, it's a little bit different. Like if you recall, like 98, 99, the stock market was just going nuts. And every company that had a .com was going public and just blowing up and blowing up in a good way. Oh, and then it blew up in a bad way as well. But that's okay, because net, the amount of value creation is undeniable. There was a bubble. Sure, there was a bubble, and the stock market, contracted, but net was huge, and the value was created is huge. That's going to be the same thing for AI. It's going to be huge value creation. We don't have the stock market reacting in the same way right now. Okay, one day it will. We know the stock market will catch up, and that'll be great. But right now, there's enough hype that we're attracting entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs are attracted to do something in AI, which is wonderful. We need more people to feed the primordial soup of ideas to lead to these great companies that will ultimately flourish and be the future of not just AI, but society.
Let's go to questions because we got a lot. So I'll move through them fast there. Thank you, everybody. In the Q&A, you can ask questions. We have enough questions now to take the rest of the time, so remember to upvote them. So first question, what's your usual equity expectations when you're working with a company? That's from Mel.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing I do hasten to throw out there when we talk to entrepreneurs is venture studios are expensive. You really do want to work with a venture studio. So very, very rough numbers. The studio gets common shares as a co-founder, and let's say we'll get around 15% ownership as a co-founder. And then as an investor, we also get preferred ownership, and we'll get somewhere in the 15 to 20% range as an
for
investor.
The $1 million.
For the $1 million. But again,
right.
Maybe we split that 500 with another firm, a group of angels, a corporation. Then of course our ownership will be less but we'll split that. But if you think, like, broadly speaking, the ownership is going to be around, like 15% plus 15% common and preferred.
That's pretty normal for venture studios.
That's right. But it's, you have to be ready for that. But the benefit, of course, I'm going to say this, the benefit greatly outstrips the equity ownership that we bring on board. The pie is bigger for everyone.
So Rami is asking, Since AI Fund looks to partner rather than just finance startups, does that mean they are more open to looking at startups with solo founders? So I guess paraphrasing that question is like, do you take founders in that have ideas and help them out?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. If there's somebody who has an idea and it's a founder that fits our profile, then great. A solo founder is fantastic because we have hiring resources. I didn't mention this, but not only do we bring in a venture advisor, but once we fund, we hire the first 5 employees for the company. So the engineers, a product manager, whatever. So we'll bring in co-founders, we'll bring in individual contributors, no problem whatsoever.
And John, if you don't mind archiving the questions that we go through, so I'll go on to Jan here. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. What are the biggest Gen AI? What are the biggest Gen AI use cases that are getting monetized these days? I'd love to hear, like, so I like this question. It's not like the biggest ideas, but the ones that are actually making money, right?
Yeah. And yeah, at the end of the day, it is about making money. As I mentioned, for the validation, we look at how many prospective customers are there and how much are they willing to pay and how urgent is this desire to pay. And so that's critical. Look, so Gen AI it's a catch-all. It's too difficult to actually give an answer. So I'll kind of hand wave a little bit because generative AI means AI that creates things. And that could be text, of course, because large language
Movies, sound, right? Everything.
right. I mean, we saw what
Research.
Google, AI, X. They just came out with Grok, I guess I should say, new image models. I saw that Alibaba came out with audio models and math models. These are all generative AI models. But you're right. If you're solving a real business problem or servicing a consumer need, then consumers and businesses are willing to pay. And we're finding opportunities in every single vertical. It just, it's really, we don't filter by vertical. If somebody comes to us as a subject matter expert in education, great. We'll do an education company with a Gen AI component. If it's human resources management, great. We'll do that. If it's drug discovery, great. AI is going to affect everything. Gen AI is going to affect everything. And I should mention, still, most of our models, our underpinning models, are supervised learning models, kind of like the classic deep learning models. And there's elements of Gen AI that are there, but maybe the Gen AI is for a audio verbal user interface or something like that. But still, the core model is something proprietary, trainable, defensible, and that all of our companies have multiple AI models.
So the next question is a good segue on that. Dan's asking, do you have target sectors right now? Maybe are you looking for entrepreneurs in a few areas or even ideas in a few areas? What's kind of, is there something you're looking for right now?
Yeah, so it would be really, I'll rephrase it and say we're not looking for target sectors. We're looking for great problems to solve. That really is it. Like if you have your bug list and you come across something that is just bugging you, that's the genesis of a company. Like I think about Jack Black in School of Rock, and he said it's so easy to write a rock song. It's like whatever on your mind. Those are the lyrics for your rock song, and say it with passion. It's the same thing for entrepreneurship. It's so easy to start a company. It's easy to start a company. It's not easy to build a company. It's so easy to start a company or have an idea. And those ideas are things that just, what is bugging you? And there's things that bug us every single day. And by the way, not everything has to be a venture fundable business. Not everything has to have venture scale. There's a great, Lex Friedman, who's got a great podcast, is interviewing an entrepreneur and his latest podcast, who started, I don't know how many companies, 40 companies.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's awesome. And he's like, look, 5% of my company's work. He himself is his own portfolio. And he's starting all these companies. And this is what bugs him, what interests him, start those companies, throw it up there, see what works. In any event, so for us, it's all about what problems can you solve? And that's what we pursue, not sectors. Every sector has problems.
What if someone already incorporated a company, Iman is asking, and has some product, is that too late for you guys, or are you really
It's
just
not too late. It typically is too late. However, it's not too late, because if you know what we have to offer and you're like, look, I really need a co-founder, let's talk. That's fine. You can bring us that idea. But normally when somebody comes to us and say, I've already have a product, I already, here's my deck, here's my president, we send back an email that says, look, AI Fund's a venture studio. We're only, we are minor co-founders in everything we build. You look like you're too far along. Good luck. But you can always, push back and say, you know what? I know what you guys do, and I really do need a co-founder. Let's talk. So that can be.
Okay, so Jason's asking, what's the biggest challenge that keeps you up at night, Warren?
Yeah, that's always the good question. Which one should I talk about? Look, our ventures, like every other venture, comes down to people. And the thing that keeps me up at night more than anything else is thinking about, some of our founders, some of our partners, whatever, and how they're doing. And it could be keeping me up at night because I'm excited for them. It could be keeping me up at night because I'm worried about them. It could be, who knows? But it really has to do with people, because this is a roller coaster, whether we're co-founding with you or not. We're not a magic elixir that 100% of our companies work out well. We are kind of a magic elixir that makes things a little easier. But what keeps me up is thinking about personnel. How are you doing? How are you hanging in there? How you had a day that was 2 out of 10 yesterday. How'd you handle that? Who are you talking to? Did you get on the phone or a Zoom with our VA and talk things through? Great. That's good. Or are you trying to do this alone? Anyway, those are the biggest things. It doesn't have to do with technology. It doesn't have to do with business model. But those are important things. It has to do with people.
That's awesome. All right, we got a couple minutes left. There are a bunch of questions about this. So I guess I'd like to hear, like, how can entrepreneurs work with you and people with ideas? And then secondly, how can funds work with you? So there's a bunch of questions like, how do I submit my stuff or my idea or what I want to work with? So let's start with the entrepreneur and idea side first, and then we'll talk about the investor side.
Awesome. Well, probably the easiest way to interface with AI Fund is to go to our website and find our form. So I should probably know exactly what it's called, but I don't have to submit a form for that. Anyway, and let us know, like what you're doing. Send us. We look at everything. We have a formalized process every week to look through everything. So yeah, let us know. We're looking for ideas. As I mentioned earlier, that we just want to you just want to throw out. We're looking for ideas plus entrepreneurs. We're looking for whatever. But we also, I'll hasten to add, we work with venture firms. We work with corporations. There's a lot of ways to bring in ideas, but it's all about sharing in this ecosystem. How can we work together to make things thrive? So that's
you do have a contact area on your form. I don't know on the what you could do. How about we do this, Warren? If you shoot me off, if it's not the contact form, if there's something more formal, we can put it in the follow-up email, so that everyone can get it who wasn't even able to attend in person on the idea side. It's great to hear that you look at everything. So now let's talk about the investor side. So you got something you're working on, you're ready to go out to investors. How can investors take a look at what you're working on and possibly help participate? And you said they could come in at the million level and later, right? So maybe.
In fact, they can even come if they have an idea. In fact, we're co-building a company with another venture firm right now. It's great. They came to us with an idea. They're like, look, we're a venture capital fund. We can't start companies. And we raise our hand and we say, yep, we can. So it's great. So they're actually co-building with us. They're part of the 12-week process. They're involved as much to whatever extent they want, because they can be involved once every 2 weeks and just go to the demo day, or if they want to be with the daily stand-ups, great, that's fine. But primarily we work with other funds and angels. They come in at the pre-seed round with us. So, let's say we write $1 million check and there's 5 angels for 100K each. Or let's say we put in 500K and another fund puts in 500K. Great, no problem. or we put in that $1 million check or whatever happens for the pre-seed. And then for the seed round, they're coming in and they're leading, a $4 million round
So how do they engage with you? Because we got a lot of those people on. What's the best way for them to see the companies and reach out?
Oh yeah. So we actually, if you're a venture firm, or you're an angel with a portfolio, we actually have a venture forum coming up next month. That'll be physically in San Francisco, but it's also virtual as well. And we welcome investors to come and participate in that. And we'll have a handful of companies present. We do this twice a year, and that's a great way to engage. And of course, like every venture fund, we have a website that lists our companies. Some of them have little stealth fighters because they're not yet out in the wild. But that's another way to go, is to track our companies there and then reach out to us. But either way, if you've got any investors online here, which sounds like you do, we can talk to them about getting them involved with our venture summit, which has those 6-7 company presentations coming up next month.
Get us the link. I'll put that in as well to the follow-up email.
Great.
Warren, this was amazing. If this was amazing, can we see some emojis? Woo! Wow, I feel like a huge dump. Lessons learned. You run things really well. What a generous thing you've done to share, and you really held nothing back. Thank you so much, Warren. This was amazing.
Yeah, great forum, Adeo. Thank you so much. And I know there's other questions. And hey, we're here. It's a community. It takes a village. Great to be part of this entrepreneurial community.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. This was awesome. We'll send you the video.